All right, so we're diving into this book, The Millionaire Real Estate Investor by Gary Keller. And, I was thinking, imagine you've got some extra cash sitting around, like maybe you got an inheritance or you've been saving up. Could you actually turn that into like a serious real estate portfolio? Like $1 million portfolio?
It's a question a lot of people ask, right?
Right. Well, this book says you absolutely can, and we're going to dig into exactly how. So joining me is, well, you know them, our expert on all things finance and real estate.
Happy to be here.
They're going to help us break down all the good stuff in this book.
There's a lot of good stuff.
One thing that really hit me was that Keller doesn't just give you a bunch of strategies. He really gets into those mental roadblocks we all have about money and wealth.
Yeah, it's almost like he knows what you're going to say before you even say it. Like, yeah, but...
Exactly.
And one of the best parts, I thought, was where Keller himself talks about how he missed out on a $100,000 opportunity.
Oh, no.
Because he wasn't thinking like an investor yet.
Ouch. Yeah, that's got to hurt.
Right. But it just shows you, how much our own mindset can really limit us. Like, we don't even see the possibilities.
Totally. And then he goes straight into busting those common myths, right? The ones that keep people from even trying. Like, how many times have you heard, my job is going to make me rich?
Oh, all the time.
Right.
So common.
I've definitely fallen for that, like thinking that next promotion is going to be it.
Yeah, but Keller's point is relying only on that paycheck, your earned income, he calls it. It just keeps you stuck. You're always working for that next dollar. He says you need unearned income, the kind that comes from assets like real estate. That's what builds real wealth.
Okay, yeah. I'm starting to see how that shift in thinking is so important. But what about, like, the danger of getting too focused on just being rich?
That's a good point. It's not just about the money, right? And Keller actually addresses the myth of, I don't need to be wealthy, but he does it in a really interesting way. He gets you to think about all the good you could do if you had more financial freedom.
I like that.
It's about more than just buying fancy stuff. It's about having the resources to make a difference.
So it's about impact. Okay, that changes things.
Right.
But let's face it, a lot of people just see real estate as this, like, super complicated thing.
Oh, yeah. Risky, too.
Risky. And they think, I could never figure that out.
Exactly. And he tackles that myth, too. Investing is too complicated. And he introduces what he calls the net worth model.
Okay.
Which sounds complicated, but it's really not. It's just about understanding your assets, your debts, and seeing the clear path to increase your net worth. No crazy formulas or anything.
Oh, good. I was getting worried there.
It can be simple.
So we've busted some myths, feeling pretty good, but where do we actually begin?
Well, the book gives us a really powerful tool. He calls it the dynamic trio of real estate investing.
The dynamic trio?
Yeah, and it all comes down to criteria, terms, and network.
Okay, break that down for us. What does that actually mean?
So criteria is about being really clear in what you're looking for in a property. Not just any house will do.
Yeah.
You need one that fits your investment goals.
Right, makes sense.
So things like location, type of property, even those little zoning details, you need to really hone in on what your ideal investment looks like.
So like being a super focused shopper, not just window shopping, but really knowing what you want.
Exactly.
Okay, but what about getting a good deal? That's where terms come in, right?
Right. It's all about negotiating the purchase so that you're getting the best possible conditions.
Okay.
And a lot of people get stuck on just the price, but Keller talks about how creative financing can really give you an advantage.
Creative finance.
Yeah, things like assumable mortgages, which a lot of new investors don't even know about.
Wait, so you're saying there might be ways to buy property without a traditional mortgage?
That's exactly what I'm saying. And the key here is that a traditional mortgage isn't the only way.
Huh.
By understanding these other options, you can get deals that other people miss.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
And then the last piece of the trio is network.
Right. Real estate, it's all about who you know, right?
Right.
Agents, lenders, contractors.
Exactly. But Keller takes it a step further than just having a list of contacts. He talks about building a team of people you really trust.
Oh, I see.
Professionals who have your back and whose expertise you can count on.
So it's about building genuine relationships, not just transactions.
Exactly. And he even tells a story about an investor who avoided a lawsuit because of their strong network.
Wow, that's a good reminder that you can't do this alone. So think about it. Who in your network could be part of your real estate dream team? Maybe you know a contractor, a lawyer, or someone who's already flipping houses.
Right. And even if you don't know anyone right now, starting to build those connections is an investment in itself. You can learn so much from people who are already doing what you want to do.
That's such good advice.
And when you start thinking about building that team, it kind of ties into another big idea from the book, which is this shift from doing to leading.
Oh, interesting. So it's like moving from being the one fixing the leaky faucet to building a whole business that can run without you.
Exactly. Keller talks about this path he calls the 7th level, which is all about leveraging other people.
Okay.
So as your portfolio grows, you can't be the one doing everything, right?
Makes sense.
You need to be able to delegate and really build that team we were talking about. Property managers, contractors, maybe even financial advisors.
Yeah, that's like the difference between being self-employed and being a real business owner.
Right. And that frees you up to focus on the big picture, finding new opportunities, getting better at your strategies, even mentoring other people.
That's the dream. But before we get there, let's go back to that investor with their starting cash, right?
Okay.
How do they actually start building a portfolio that can bring in real income?
That's where the book gets really practical.
I like practical.
Keller says you can't just sit around and wait for deals to show up. You need to be out there hunting for them. And he gives you this system for doing that. It's called the lead generation model.
Okay, I'm all about systems. So walk me through it. What are the steps?
First, you got to go back to those criteria we defined earlier, remember? You have to really know what you're looking for.
Right. No more window shopping.
Exactly. Then it's about figuring out who can help you find those properties. Maybe it's real estate agents, maybe it's talking directly to owners, or even people in your network already.
I'm seeing how this all connects. Clear criteria make your search way more focused, and a strong network gives you more leads to work with.
It's all connected. And then the model talks about using different ways to find those leads. Don't just rely on one thing. Try mailings, online listings, even just telling people in your community that you're looking to buy.
So being proactive and getting creative.
Exactly. Of course, you're going to run into a lot of properties that just aren't right.
Yeah, got to sift through the duds.
And that's where the last step comes in, being able to quickly decide which leads are worth your time and which ones you should just walk away from.
Don't want to waste energy on the wrong deals.
Nope. And to help with that, Keller gives you these 5 laws of lead generation.
Oh, yeah, I remember those. Do you actually use those yourself?
All the time. They're like my guiding principles.
Okay, so what's your favorite?
Well, the first one is huge. Never compromise on your criteria. It's easy to get excited about a deal that seems good, but if it doesn't fit your strategy, just walk away.
That takes discipline.
It does, but it prevents you from making those impulsive decisions that you might regret later.
Makes sense. Better to be safe than sorry.
Right. Another one that's really important is be a shopper, not a buyer.
Right.
It's about being patient and waiting for the right opportunity, not just jumping on the first thing that comes along.
So it's more about strategy and less about desperation.
Exactly. And remember, this is a numbers game.
Okay.
The more leads you can find, the better your chances of finding those amazing deals. And that's why having a system is so crucial.
Keeps you organized and on track.
Yep.
Okay, so this is really starting to feel like a map to that $1 million portfolio.
It is.
But let's talk about money, right? How does Keller suggest actually getting the most out of your investment once you've got a property?
One of the key concepts is maximizing what's called your net operating income, or NOI.
NOI. Okay, that sounds a little technical. Can you break that down for us?
Sure. It's basically the income you get from rent minus your operating expenses.
Oh, okay.
So the higher your rent and the lower your expenses, the higher your NOI, and that's what drives your profit.
So it's not just about getting the highest rent possible, it's about managing your expenses too.
Exactly. And the book has all sorts of strategies for increasing that rental income, like using rent escalators in your leases so the rent goes up automatically each year.
Ooh, smart. Keeps things simple and makes sure your income keeps up with inflation.
Right. And when it comes to expenses, it's all about being careful.
Okay.
Negotiate better rates on your property taxes, shop around for the best insurance, and stay on top of maintenance so small problems don't turn into expensive ones.
Sounds like you need a good balance of big picture thinking and attention to detail.
Absolutely. You need that vision for your portfolio, but you also got to be hands-on and manage your properties well.
Makes sense. Now, something that really caught my eye was this idea of thinking in units rather than properties. What's that all about?
It's a subtle shift, but it can make a big difference.
Okay.
Instead of just focusing on how many properties you own, you're looking at the total number of rental units you have.
So it's about getting the most out of your investment and also making things easier to manage.
Precisely. The book points out that managing 100 units in one apartment building is usually way more efficient than managing 100 houses spread all over the place.
Oh, yeah. Fewer headaches.
Fewer properties to deal with, fewer tenants to manage, and it can help with risk, too.
How so?
Well, if one unit in a big building is empty, it doesn't hurt your income as much as having a whole house sitting vacant.
Right. That makes sense.
So you can see how these millionaire investors really think strategically about building their portfolios. It's not just about buying random properties. It's about making choices that maximize efficiency and minimize risk.
Very cool. And don't forget about creative financing. We talked about it before, but the book really emphasizes how important it is, especially as you grow your portfolio.
Yeah, that story about O'Kane, the investor who bought a property with no down payment, blew my mind.
Right. It's important to remember that there are so many financing options out there beyond traditional mortgages.
I think a lot of people assume you need tons of cash to even get started in real estate. And that's just not true.
So these creative financing options really open up possibilities.
They do, and the book makes it clear that mastering these strategies is a key difference between investors who are really successful and those who struggle.
That's powerful. So we've talked about finding leads, making good deals, managing properties, even financing strategies.
There's a lot.
It is. But there's one thing that seems to connect it all, and that's mindset.
Absolutely. Keller dedicates a whole section of the book to what he calls the millionaire mind, and it's just as important as the practical stuff.
So what are some of the big takeaways from that section?
One that really stands out is the idea of focusing on the long-term wealth, not just those quick flips.
Okay.
These millionaires, they're thinking in terms of decades, not months.
Oh, that's long-term.
Right. They're patient, they're disciplined, and they understand how powerful compounding can be.
That's a great lesson for anyone, really, no matter what your goals are.
Exactly. It's about playing the long game, not just chasing those quick wins, but how do you stay motivated when it takes so long?
Yeah, that's a good question. How do you stay focused on those big long-term goals when there's so much going on?
Keller talks about the importance of having a clear why. What's really driving you to build wealth? What do you want to achieve with that freedom?
So it's deeper than just wanting money. It's about what that money allows you to do.
Exactly. And it's about surrounding yourself with the right people, mentors, advisors, other successful investors who can keep you inspired and support you along the way.
I love that community, so important. Speaking of successful investors, in the next part of our deep dive, we're going to be talking to someone who's actually used all these principles to build an incredible real estate portfolio. They're going to share their own story and some tips for navigating the market and achieving financial freedom. Welcome back to our deep dive into the millionaire real estate investor. We've spent the last two parts breaking down all the strategies and mindset stuff that Keller talks about, but now we get to hear from someone who's actually put those ideas into action. I'm so excited to introduce our guest. They're a real estate investor who's built an incredible portfolio. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
So we've been talking about Keller's book and how it's like this roadmap to building wealth through real estate. I'm curious, what was your journey like? How did you get started in all of this?
You know, it's funny. My story starts out a lot like those people Keller writes about in the book. I was stuck in a job that honestly was killing me. I knew there had to be more to life, more freedom, but I had no idea how to get there.
So how did you discover real estate? What made you think this is it?
Well, I was actually at a bookstore. Remember those?
Yeah.
And Keller's book, The Millionaire Real Estate Investor, just caught my eye. I started reading it, and it was like a light bulb went off. It felt so different from all those get-rich-quick schemes you see everywhere. Keller's approach was so grounded, strategic, and he really emphasized building wealth for the long term.
It's funny how a book can just grab you like that. What was it about the book that really spoke to you?
The stories. Keller doesn't just talk about theories. He shares real stories about everyday people who started with nothing, no experience, and built these amazing real estate businesses. It made me believe that if they could do it, maybe I could too.
Yeah, seeing yourself in those success stories, it's powerful. So what was your first step? Did you just run out and buy a property?
Not right away. I spent a lot of time really absorbing the concepts, defined my criteria, thought about my ideal investment, and started building my network. I even reached out to a couple of the investors in the book just to get their advice.
Wow, that's bold. Did they actually respond?
A couple of them did, yeah. And their advice was gold. They told me to be patient, don't rush into anything, and really make sure I understood the local market.
So it wasn't just about any deal, it was about the right deal. What was your first investment?
It was a small multifamily property, just a duplex, in a neighborhood that was starting to come back to life. I put some of my savings down and got a regular mortgage.
Looking back, would you do anything differently with that first purchase?
Maybe I would have been a little more adventurous with the financing. Back then, I didn't fully get those creative options Keller talks about. But, live and learn, right?
Right. And now you've built this amazing portfolio. Can you give us an idea of your investment strategy now?
Yeah, I've definitely shifted more towards multifamily properties. I like the efficiency of managing a bunch of units all in one place. It helps me scale my income much faster.
So you're living that think in units principle Keller talks about.
Exactly. It's a game changer, honestly. And I've also started looking into commercial real estate, which is a whole other world. But the fundamentals from the book still hold true: understanding value, negotiating good terms, and building those relationships.
We've talked a lot about the strategies, but let's talk about the mindset side. Keller talks about the millionaire mind, and I'm curious how that's played a role for you.
Oh, it's been huge. When I was starting out, I had a lot of self-doubt. Could I really do this? Well, was I cut out for it? But Keller's book helped me change my thinking. He talks about believing in yourself, setting big goals, and not letting fear hold you back.
Yeah, it's so easy to let those limiting beliefs take over, especially when you're trying something new.
Right. And one thing that really resonated with me was the focus on long-term wealth, not those quick wins. I'm in this for the long game. I want to build something that will last for me and my family.
That long-term vision is so important. It helps you through those ups and downs, and there are always ups and downs. Speaking of which, have there been any big challenges along the way? Any moments where you thought, what have I gotten myself into?
Oh, tons. I've dealt with nightmare tenants, unexpected repairs, even deals that just fell apart at the last minute. There were definitely times when I wondered if it was all worth it.
So how did you get through those tough times? How did you stay motivated?
I had to lean on my network, my mentors, advisors, other investors who'd been through similar things. They reminded me that setbacks are just part of the journey, and it's all about how you learn and grow from those challenges.
It's that resilience, that never give up attitude that really separates those who make it. So for those listening who are just starting out, what advice would you give them? What's the one thing you wish you knew when you were starting?
Honestly, educate yourself. Read books like The Millionaire Real Estate Investor. Go to seminars. Talk to people who've done it. Soak up as much knowledge as you can. Knowledge is power. It'll give you the confidence to make good decisions.
Love that. Don't just jump in blindly. Do your research. What else?
Don't be afraid to take action. It's easy to get stuck in analysis paralysis, but at some point, you just have to jump in, start small, learn as you go, and gradually build your portfolio as you get more comfortable.
It's about that balance of learning and doing. Any final words of wisdom?
Remember, building wealth through real estate, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Be patient, keep at it, and don't give up on your dreams. The rewards are absolutely worth the effort.
Thank you so much for sharing your story and your advice. I know our listeners have learned a lot from you.
It was my pleasure. Happy to help.
And that wraps up our deep dive into the Millionaire Real Estate Investor. We've covered the main ideas, the strategies, and most importantly, how to shift your mindset for success in real estate. Remember, it's a journey, but with the right knowledge and a little bit of hustle, you can create the life you've always wanted. So what are you waiting for? Go out there and start building your own $1 million real estate portfolio.